First, here's my take. Teachers are striking in states across America, and since last week was Teacher Appreciation Week, I intended to write on the subject, but a more newsy topic intervened. And that's an apt metaphor for what is happening to teachers in America today. We live in a media environment in which the urgent often crowds out the important. But this week, I'm going to stick to my plans and talk about teachers. In East of Eden, a sprawling magisterial novel about the great American West, John Steinbeck writes, "In the country, the teacher was not only an intellectual paragon and a social leader, but also the matrimonial catch of the countryside. A family could indeed walk proudly if a son married the school teacher." The picture Steinbeck paints, set in the early 20th century, is almost unrecognizable in today's America, where school teachers are so poorly paid that they are 5 times as likely as the average full-time worker to have a second job, according to Vox. We've all heard about stagnant middle-class wages, but the average pay for a teacher in America, adjusted for inflation, has actually declined over the last 15 years, while their healthcare costs have risen substantially. The Economist reports that teachers earn 60% of what a professional with comparable education does. With low wages and stretched resources, American educators burn out and quit the profession at twice the rate of some of the highest achieving countries, points out Linda Darling-Hammond of the Learning Policy Institute. Since 35% fewer Americans have studied to become teachers in recent years, she notes there are massive teacher shortages, forcing schools nationwide to hire more than 100,000 people who lack the proper qualifications. In fact, the New York Times reports it is so hard for public schools to find qualified Americans that many districts are starting to recruit teachers from low-wage countries like the Philippines. It's not all about money. Leading a classroom was never a pathway to riches, but teachers once did command the respect and status that Steinbeck's quote reflects. Andreas Schleicher, who heads the OECD's education division and has spent years doing careful international comparisons on education, has often observed that the countries that do best at public education, Singapore, Finland, South Korea, can recruit top college graduates into the teaching ranks because they pay reasonably well, they invest in the professional development of teachers, and their societies show deep respect for the profession. In America, when we encounter a member of the armed services, many of us make it a point to thank them for their service. When was the last time you did that for a public school teacher? Yes, education is a very complicated subject. Simply spending more money does not guarantee results, although there are studies that indicate a significant correlation between teacher pay and student achievement. The education bureaucracy is rigid and often corrupt. But all this masks the central problem. Over the last 30 years, as part of the assault on government, bureaucrats, and the public sector in general, being a teacher in America has become a thankless job. And yet, teaching is the one profession that makes all other professions possible.